Musa, and most people know me as MC Mose.
I'm James.
That's what they call me.
MC Mose.
MC Mose.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Music,
right? Music man. This is our podcast. It's been going on, and we do it once in a week. And today's topic is going to be around COVID. Our perception. We will be talking about the perception of COVID.
And the lockdown that's about to be.
And the lockdown that is about to start next week.
Yeah, Thursday.
Yeah. So we are so sorry for technical issues we had before. And we only got one person there, and we're going to start with that one person. Thank you so much for watching. This is Musa, MC Mose, and this is James.
Come subscribe to our podcast. It's called Out the Box.
Out the Box. You'll find us on Apple.
You'll find us on
Spotify. We're everywhere.
We'll make it later.
We're gonna be everywhere. We're gonna be everywhere, and
very professional.
we welcome everyone on this platform, and you speak your mind. That's the main agenda.
Yeah, you say the truth.
Encourage people to
saying the truth.
Yeah. There's no embarrassment in saying what you think is the truth. If it's not the truth, so who cares?
Yeah.
Yes. Let's go back to our conversation.
Yeah, and no one's pretending to be like professional.
Like, we are not professionals.
We give our opinions.
Yeah, we just give our opinions, and we do have people like professionals that will be inviting to this platform and to share with you, and we also pay attention to conspiracies. Yeah, because I don't know why people choose what information should be legitimized as the factual information, and academics do that. They tend to decide what is right and what is wrong. I realize that when you do academic writing,
and then they try to make it sound complicated, so you can't argue against it.
You can't argue against it, and then you can't confirm it. So that's why, going back to Boris Johnson and all these world leaders who are struggling with COVID, they rely so much on these scientists. Whereas the scientists themselves, they don't know what the hell is going on.
But they present it as if they know. This is so interesting. My first so I had to write obviously a dissertation for my degree.
Yeah.
My first idea was to write about how academics make their language in their papers way more complicated than it needs to be.
Yeah.
And I was going to explore why, and I got told not to do it because I would piss off too many of the lecturers.
Okay.
If I did that, but the original idea was they make it too complicated because it makes them feel better about their ideas when they say it in a complicated way. Yeah. And it makes them seem smarter. Yeah. For saying something that's actually not so informed.
Yes, I know we meant to talk about COVID and the whole perception of
we'll get there.
Psychological, scientific, and social perspective of COVID as it is. But speaking of studying and on academic side of things, why is it that you are not encouraged to use your brain? Why do you have to rely on people that have already written things that are not theirs? Because in most cases, whatever all these dissertations and essays that people do, it's not really your words, and you are encouraged not to write your own understanding.
I think in our field, so like psychology,
sociology,
yeah.
He's a psychologist, this guy.
Yeah, and this guy's psychologist and sociologist in training, right? But no, in our field it's the worst. Yeah. Well, it's not the worst out of every field, but compared to like actual sciences, it's a lot worse. Yeah. Because one, the ideas you're trying to prove are hard to prove. Yeah. And they're very kind of like hard to even understand exactly what they are. Yeah, because you're doing an experimentation on a million of people, but you can only afford to interview about 20 people. 20 people, yeah.
And how can you make a decision on 20 people? What, for example, if you remember our first conversation about groups, I come from a Ugandan community. I may decide to do my investigation in Ugandan community.
Yeah.
But that does not prove it that they won't be biased about a certain topic.
True. And how many
So-
Ugandan people do you know? Ugandan are all like Ugandan people that are your friends in the study?
So let's go back in our context. So
Yeah.
speaking of COVID,
Right.
what is your perception of COVID? James is a well-traveled
Yeah.
young man. He's been to Asia a couple of times. He's well-educated, and he has an enormous interest in society. So
Cheers. That's a nice introduction.
yeah, that's who you are.
Yeah.
And he's my partner on this platform. So we just opened up this podcast, and we have a microphone that he keeps putting away. So we are recording
We
this.
can move it in, make it
Yeah.
look like a little more professional. There we go.
We are recording this with whatever we have for now. And yeah, please tell us about your
Okay.
perception of COVID.
So when it all started,
Yeah.
I was living in Vietnam at the time, which meant that about 2 months before everything was becoming panicked here, it was panicked
Things
there
were worse,
because they share the border with China. And they've had experience with diseases from China before. It was in Vietnam, SARS started to spread through Vietnam from China. And Vietnam was actually the first country.
It was
to
scary.
stop
We
that
used
dead,
to.
you
We
know,
were making jokes about Chinese and COVID.
Yeah, right. But they have experience with this before, which meant that they had things in place to deal with it, but also they had inbuilt suspicion and inbuilt panic about it. And so the city went from normal to a crazy place.
How was the panic?
Everyone was afraid.
Okay.
Like you could see it on everyone's faces.
Because the whole world media was on China.
Yeah, and they were genuinely like. People were suddenly afraid of everyone else, and people were suddenly going a little bit crazy. And the streets went from full to the point where you can barely get down them to almost empty. I've never seen Hanoi, that city, like that. Even close. Even close. Like even late at night, even like 4 a.m. That city is not like that. Which was a bit crazy to watch. It only lasted like maybe a week or two.
Do you think media overhyped things, or
yes,
it was reasonable to?
At that time, it was
the
reasonable.
reaction was reasonable.
Yeah, at that time the reaction was reasonable.
And what would you say now?
No, well now, because at the time you don't know anything about the virus, right? All you know is it's very, very infectious. There's an unknown number of people who have it, who are spreading it throughout the countries, and it could like one person with it could suddenly spread it to 200 people, and then those 200 people to 1 million people, like that overnight.
But that was the perception.
This was the perception, and you don't know how deadly it is because no one's had it yet. You know, and no one trusts the information from China, right? China's like, no one's dying from it, everyone's fine. But then everyone also knows that China lies about these things when it comes to foreign policy issues.
Speaking of China and deception do you think European or other world leaders lie, or you think China is exceptional?
I think
because now you have enough proof to.
China is exceptional in how much they can get away with lying. I think they all lie. Or they all at least tell truths.
I think they all lie, but it's how you lie,
them, right? Yeah, China is like. If you take North Korea, for example, like they lie.
It's part of leadership.
Out and out lie.
It's part of leadership there.
China is not as bad as North Korea, but it's closer to North Korea than it is to, say, like, honest. If you have honest here and North Korea there, they're like over here, not over there. Like,
do you think lying is protective to the world population or the citizens of that country? For example, if a leader lies, do you think they lie in the interest of your well-being or in the interest of their own whatever?
Well, it depends on the situation, but I think often they lie because it's in the interest of their party's political power and their personal political power. If you understand what I mean.
So when UK took some time, and a few people suggested herd immunity in the beginning, when it was just coming.
Right.
And I was a big fan of herd immunity, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because on a scientific side, it's a virus. It's a virus that is unstoppable, and is known to be one of, SARS family is like it's millions or
Sure.
could be trillions of viruses, and we do have a code which kills a lot of people in a year, especially people with low immune system. But the problem in Europe, the mainstream media has an upper hand on deciding what should be done in terms of putting pressure on leaders, and also
they set up the options.
They set up the options. Right? I've seen it in football. Like they will put pressure on a football coach, and they will select their own team, and that will influence the decision making.
Yeah.
So I think that also happened when COVID was on its way.
Yeah.
Because England, America, these are well-developed countries. They could trace things. These are people who see the weather forecast of the next 5 days. And scientifically, they're really good. So you can't say to me that COVID just came and they were not aware of it.
Right.
So when it came, they were not prepared. PPE, lack of enough PPE. The scientists themselves, they didn't know what it's like. It was there's
a lot of panic, right?
Yeah, there was a lot of panic. But do you think they can be excused for that and their lies, or?
Yes and no. They can be excused for panicking and reacting.
Yeah.
But I don't think for lying.
Because all governments have been lying, and if I tell you what happened in my own country, Uganda, you will laugh. But I
remember that one interview you did. I didn't understand much. I understood that everyone is waiting for the prince to do something when they should be doing something themselves.
Yeah, although I think their measures somehow helped, but majority of people in Uganda don't believe that COVID exists in Uganda. Although the government took strict measures. Yeah. They shut down I think it was one of the first governments to shut down the airport and the 14 days quarantine and stuff like that. But because the impact hasn't been felt by the population,
right? So
most people, they don't think there's COVID in Uganda.
Sure.
Do you think there's COVID in England?
Yeah. Sure.
And
I believe it's here.
Yeah.
I don't believe it's a conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't believe it's. Look. So before we, because we're jumping a bit over.
Yeah. Okay.
So you were talking about herd immunity, and I want to actually say something on that.
Yeah.
I think there's a problem with herd immunity as an idea.
Yeah.
Which is, as you said, after that.
Yeah.
We have the common cold and we have the flu here already, right?
Yeah.
And no one's been trying to isolate from that or tackle that.
For
so supposedly,
yeah, we've lived
we live with it, right?
Yeah.
But why then do we not have herd immunity against it, and why has that not stopped to exist?
Yeah.
Because we have not been trying to not get herd immunity. It has been spreading without us trying to stop it.
Yeah.
So if herd immunity was going to destroy that disease, then it would have destroyed it already, because we've been living with it for hundreds of years.
Wow, sick, man. I like that.
Yeah. So herd immunity is not a way to destroy coronavirus.
Okay.
But it is a way to limit its spread throughout the population, and something you can isolate away from.
How does it limit the spread when you don't know when it's going to go?
Because if more people are immune to it, it's harder for it to suddenly spread everywhere.
Okay.
So if out of 100 people, 55 of them are immune to it. Then, say you interact with 20 people. The chances are that half of them will be immune, so only half of them can spread it. And so the chances of it going from 1 to 1,000 people in a day is less.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of is it something more deadly? So at the time, it was reasonable to panic and it was reasonable to put precautions against it. Because no one actually knew how deadly it would be. And it was, the one thing that was obvious is it was very contagious. And that was obvious from the start because it spread like wildfire. Right? It was, and in indoor settings, it was very easy to spread.
On that note of spreading, I think coronavirus is even spreading more now, but it's because now we are psychologically used to it. The media has relaxed on promotion of it, and the governments are more confused now. So I think the population is getting used to the new way of life, I think.
Yes, but that's kind of how it should be. Like, it's another risk in a life that's full of risks. You know, if you drive your car to work, that's a risk. You have more chance of crashing a car if you're driving a car. If you cross the road, that's a risk. And if you go out in public during the winter, you're more at risk of getting sick from flu and respiratory diseases. And this is what everyone already knew. But because this virus sprung up out of nowhere and became political, and almost immediately political, and the reason it became so political is because there's such a politically charged environment in
on a global scale.
On a global scale, there's a lot going on in politics. In England with Brexit, in America with Donald Trump.
Then
people chose sides.
It came also in the midst of economic war. I think China and America, they were Europe, China, and America. There was economic war going on,
and there was some like sour opinions towards China. And then suddenly this comes out of supposedly China. Right?
I think they used it not knowing the impact it was going to have outside China. And then they eventually realized that whatever shit they were chatting about China, now they're in the same situation.
Right. And they painted themselves into a corner, right? They have to act in a way that they were suggesting that everyone else acts.
Exactly. So what happens is, when you read the world news, international news, you don't see China suffering like Europe and America now.
No.
Why is it that?
Well, good question. Either because they're lying and covering it up.
Okay. The Chinese. Or I wanted you to come back on Chinese and how you was trying to convince me that China, they lie the best.
Well, it's quite obvious, man. They use whatever they can for their own political advantage, and I don't really have a long list of things that I can rattle off the top of my head. But I know I can find it. There's no doubt in my... And I have some things that I can say, like they have their current thing where they are putting Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps.
And they've managed to conceal that information, you know.
Well, it's not concealed, everyone knows, but they just don't... It's not useful to say that against them because they don't care. Because they're doing it. If you go to... we were talking about this last week. It's like, if you are running against me as my political opponent... Because... like, you can call me racist, and that's an advantage to you, because people care about that here.
Of course,
But people don't care about that there. And so you don't use that. Everyone's like, oh, well, you're putting Uyghur Muslims in concentration camps and you're subjugating Hong Kong. And everyone's like,
because it's a minority.
Know, like,
it's a minority, okay, staying in the context of perception of COVID.
Start at the beginning. Where does it come from?
We were talking about lying, and the world leaders, have they been lying to people? You know, because if I start telling you about my leader in Uganda, I'll wait for your justification on you accusing China of being the best liars.
I don't know if they're the best. I just know that they do it.
Okay.
I know Africa has its fair share of like really good liars as well.
Okay, so, thing is, with China, they control social media in China.
Right.
They control the mainstream media in China. So it's easy for them to limit the information on a specific issue
right,
whatever that is going
and change
on.
the perception.
So I think in the sense of who lies the best Chinese, they can control the information, especially raw information.
Yeah.
Whereas in UK, in America, me myself, I can just see something on the street, put it on Facebook. It's everywhere. Uganda sees it, Australia sees it. Whereas in China, you don't get to see the types of George Floyd. You know, George Floyd incident happening in China, and you see it on Facebook. The chances of seeing that, they're very slim. So I think that affects. Protects them from being embarrassed like Boris Johnson and
definitely
Donald Trump.
And plus, there's consequences to embarrassing the Chinese government.
Yeah.
Like if you're in China, like there are journalists who get imprisoned. They just get disappeared, right?
Yeah.
So you don't want to embarrass them.
That's one side of Marxist. I don't like. I do like a bit of Marxism, like I told you.
Yeah, right.
But that's why I say the idea is good.
Yeah.
It's the people who are not very good.
Well,
so,
maybe.
So
we'll talk about this another time.
Yeah. Let's go to Boris Johnson, because this is where we live and we're going in the lockdown.
This is where we started.
What mark do you give him out of 10?
Out of 10?
Yeah.
What, in the last year?
Handling, since COVID, just the COVID subject.
3?
Wow, why?
4?
Okay.
I don't know. He's been in a hard situation, but he's not handled it well either.
Okay.
Like, he had a chance. So if I had been here, I would have voted for him in the last election.
Okay.
I didn't vote in the last election.
Okay. I would not vote him. I'm a Labour.
But I would have voted for him in the last election, and I would not vote for him if there was an election now.
Okay.
I think he's handled the situation badly. I think he's been forced into a position where he's playing politics again.
Yeah.
The fact that there's a second lockdown coming now.
Yeah.
I would have happily placed a big bet that would have happened.
Yeah. Because
I found out that it's actually politically advantageous for them to put a second lockdown in, even if the science says that this doesn't work. Yeah. Which there is science saying. Well, there are studies saying that lockdowns are not an effective way of stopping the spread of respiratory diseases. Yeah. There's a lot of studies saying that masks are not very effective either. Yeah. And I can't remember the name of the guy. I can find it out for you later. Yeah. But I was watching an interview with him the other day. Yeah. And he was explaining all of this in depth. Yeah. But there's an advantage politically to going into another lockdown. Yeah. So say you have your first lockdown, and it's a panic lockdown because you don't know what the effects are going to be. That was the first one. This is the first one, right? This is the first one? No, the first one was the panic lockdown. The first one was the panic lockdown. Yeah. And you say, like, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to put people inside to stop this happening, so we can build up the infrastructure in the NHS so that it can handle increases in the future once we come out of it. Yeah. And so we can prevent unknown numbers of people dying. Yeah. You know, we don't know how many people this could kill. Yeah. Stay home, try and get yourself safe. Yeah. Because this could be the next Black Plague. Yeah, yeah. This could wipe out
that was
20% of people. Yeah. And this was said, and this was said in a state of panic, and I don't blame people for panicking. Yeah. I blame a lot of media for fanning the flames. Yeah. I blame politicians for fanning the flames as well, because they're playing their political game, because it became a political
The media as
issue.
always is working for capitalists, isn't it? They made a killing, innit?
Sure. But I understand why that had to happen. Now, what happens afterwards is everyone comes out of that and they're looking now at the fact that the economy is collapsing and people's lives are going badly. As you were saying, now there's mental health issues. Yeah. Now there's other problems, such as, like, one of the big things that people keep talking about is underdiagnosis of cancer, underdiagnosis of other diseases. Because people are afraid to go to the doctors. Yeah. And the doctors won't see them.
The community where I'm coming from, we have lost so many people. Mm. And a big number of these people, they die in a self-isolation environment. like they die alone, they die in bed. And because
like
we are not type of people who ask for postmortem results and stuff like that, so we just keep saying rest in peace, rest in peace, rest in peace. But also that what it has done, it has created anxiety, and we are our culture. You know, we have diabetes, we have these chronic diseases, and you got people with so many types of diseases, and in talking about mental health, when you add mental health, because we all know that mental health wakes up, mental illness, it wakes up all your whatever genetic or whatever diseases that are in you. Once your mental health is affected, you are more likely to get ill.
And stay ill.
And stay ill, because speaking of the biology side of it, it all starts with the brain. And the hormones are confused, and then your body start releasing those hormones that you don't need at that time. So that's
you start craving unhealthy things. You start drinking more, eating worse, like going out less.
You start arguing with people, having invisible enemies, and then you will be. So that's a very serious issue, to be honest with you, on a mental health perspective. And my question again is, do you think the media and the government, they are contributing to these other...
They intentionally... So it's... As far as I'm aware, it was intentional for the government to create fear in the population so that they would follow...
For good reasons.
For good reasons, so that they would follow the restrictions of the lockdown. The problem with that is, once you start doing it, you can't be like, oh well, guys, we did it just to make you afraid. But now the danger's over. Please vote for us in the next election. And everyone's like, my life has been turned upside down. I have now a drinking problem. I lost my job. My wife has left me. And I need someone to blame for that.
James, I've seen families on BBC that were not allowed to see their mother, uncle, sister until that person passed away.
My uncle, his father died, and he wasn't allowed to invite people to the funeral.
Exactly. So this traumatic, effect it has had on people, it is not going tomorrow. And it looks like COVID is not going tomorrow.
No.
So these social impacts are still in place, and. As when you look on Twitter and what people are saying, especially on Twitter, you see that people are fed up. It's not like they don't believe that COVID is there, but what they are fed up is not even COVID itself. They are fed up with the information that is not still. Every day you have a conflicting statement from the same sources. So as a human being, that's where, going back to mental health, that's where you start getting fed up of the confusion.
Well, I think also, look, I'm fed up, and here's the reason why. Coronavirus has not negatively affected my life in almost any way. If I caught the disease, I would most likely be fine, because I don't have underlying diseases. I'm not in close contact with anyone who is at risk. The thing that's affected my life really, really strongly and really, really negatively has been lockdowns, has been new government restrictions, and has been the crashing of the economy. In defence against this disease, which it turns out, if you look at the evidence, is not deadly unless you are a specific category of person. Unless you are sick or old, you are not likely to die from this disease. And if you are sick and you are old, it's not because of coronavirus you're dying, it's because you're sick and old. Like, you would have died from another disease if you had caught that.
Okay, I'll try to make it more softer than that.
Look,
if you have an ill person and you take them outside and you don't put a jacket on them, chances are the cold will affect them and increase their illness. So that is the way that, for me, that's how I look at COVID. So that's what the government is trying to do, is to put a jacket on.
Right.
So that is understandable. But my main issue is the information. the information does not really corroborate with.
No.
For example, what was said yesterday does not corroborate with what is said today.
No.
And then these are like the main source of this information they say is scientists. You know, and these are people who have spent a number of years, you know, studying viruses and stuff. So we go back to that question. Remember when we were talking, is it a natural virus or is it a natured virus?
Well, engineered.
Engineered, yeah.
So possibly.
Because you can't bring an expert person who is an expert in studying the existing virus and expect them to understand an engineered virus unless you use the same people who did.
Do
you get the point?
I know what you're saying, but I don't know.
I'm saying just in case if it's just a virus that happened to escape from the lab.
Yeah. So okay, well let's run out because we were talking about this before. So there's, as far as I'm aware, the virus came from China. You said maybe it didn't, but okay. As far as I'm aware, it's from China.
Yeah.
And as far as I'm aware, there are 3 possibilities of where it came from in China.
Yeah.
One, it came from a food market in Wuhan, where someone was eating a bat, and that's how it got into them, and then they transmitted it to other people. Two, which is more likely than that one, because when a virus is unlikely to infect you from another animal because you have different systems.
Yeah.
A virus that infects you from another animal is unlikely to infect another person.
Okay.
Because again, your entire systems are different and the systems of infection are different.
Yeah.
And so for it to do both of those things are very unlikely.
Yeah.
Possible.
Yeah.
But very unlikely.
Yeah.
The second option is during the Chinese New Year celebrations, it was transmitted into Wuhan from one of the surrounding villages up in rural China, where they have much more contact with bats, and so within their community, this virus has had time to evolve and spread. And when they come into the city, it hits a high population density area and starts spreading that way. And the third option is it comes out of the virology lab in Wuhan, where they'd engineered it. So there's a virology lab in Wuhan where they would study viruses that are like this. And they had, about 6 months before the infection, warnings from an inspection body that they are not conducting themselves safely enough, and there's potential that one of the viruses could escape. And there are some aspects of the virus that mean that it looks like it could have been engineered. I'm not saying that that's what I believe. I'm saying that there are some aspects of it, such as the fact that it's very, very highly infectious, which means it's very well adapted to humans, which would be very unlikely if it came from the food market, and very unlikely if it was a new virus within a village. And the fact that it's very difficult to transmit it outside.
I would like to note out that I saw a few articles on social media that people think Bill Gates created this.
I heard this too.
So he can sell the vaccine.
What's this about, man?
And
Bill Gates,
because he was like
really under fire.
Before they started hitting him, he was like the spokesman of this virus. I understand he's or whatever the word you know. What I don't understand, if the virus came from China is densely populated. How did China manage to get rid of this virus? And now, like, life in China has gone on back to normal, and whereas in Europe we're still trying to figure it out.
Well, let me ask you, how many people die from this virus here in Europe? Out of 100 people, how many people?
Hundreds
die?
of thousands, isn't it?
Out of 100 people who get the disease, how many of them die?
I won't give a figure, but I'll need to get factual information to confirm that. But a lot of people have died, but in a guesswork, I would say maybe 10%. 10% is still a big number, though.
You're like
1%.
You're about 100 times higher. It's less than 1%.
Okay.
It's like 0.1%.
That's.
And so the fact that China is carrying on like normal is not that much of a surprise, because there are plenty of diseases that have that same rate that already exists.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a very high risk.
So you're saying
you know,
COVID is not high risk?
It's not high risk unless you are high risk. If you have diabetes and you're 75 years old or 80 years old,
yeah,
then you will likely die from that disease. You know,
that has been said a couple of times. But do you think it's because Europe and America, they take life serious?
True. Yeah. In China, they don't take it so seriously. Like, you know, with their sweatshops, etc. You know,
yes.
Do you remember the thing where this was a while ago now, maybe like 5 to 10 years ago, they had their sweatshops.
Yeah.
Where people are in there like 14 hours a day or something, and they had a problem where too many people were committing suicide because they would throw themselves off the top of the building.
Yeah.
But instead of improving the conditions in the place, all they did was put nets around the building to catch them so that they couldn't kill themselves that way.
Oh, okay.
And so they have to kill themselves outside instead.
Oh.
Like, so they don't actually care as much as we do about life.
Yeah, they got billions of people, 2.5 billion people.
Exactly. They have like a third of the world population.
So
they've got people to spare.
So that gives governments in Europe a benefit of doubt on mishandling of. Right,
because they're trying to prevent death.
They're trying to
prevent death. This is no joke. This is why I was going. The first lockdown, panic lockdown, trying to prevent death.
Yeah.
Like trying to prevent plague.
Yeah.
Trying to prevent just widespread terrible disaster.
Yeah.
Understandable.
Yeah.
You know, I even support that. Not that I think it works.
Yeah.
But I support the idea.
Yeah.
This second lockdown coming up on Thursday is the one that I have the problem with.
Yeah.
Because the evidence is in. You know the general population.
I felt so sorry for people who are in Manchester and Liverpool because they have already been in a lockdown, and I heard I've not really heard anything yet, but I've heard from you and other people that the one that is being announced is a national lockdown.
Yeah. Oh, you don't know the details?
Yeah. Is it going to affect Manchester, Liverpool, or?
It's nationwide.
Nationwide.
It's 1 month.
Yeah.
On Thursday.
Yeah.
Same as the first lockdown.
And there's a possibility of extension.
And they said this. So yesterday they were like, it's going to be 1 month, only 1 month, and then today they say there's a possibility of extension.
Okay.
So they have to introduce it in step by step.
You see,
right?
James, that's what I said before. My only issue with COVID is the information.
This is your only issue? Because
this is my main issue, to be honest with you. As a person who is willing to work in a health sector, I have to be careful on how I perceive, public health.
Sure.
So I give the government benefit of doubt on that, but also the information, especially on speaking of mental health, information is playing a big part in making the people ill.
Yeah.
And this should be looked at in a very, very serious way.
Yeah.
Information is killing people. As much as we talk about genetically modified food and all these the things we consume, but also the information that people consume. Because on my Facebook, on Ugandan Facebook, you see people argue over things that are created by someone in their room. And people will spend days fighting on that deceptive information. And then eventually people will find out that whatever they were arguing about was a picture from a different country doctored to pass a political point.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was nothing.
But it's too late.
Yeah.
People have already been fighting and stuff. So the same thing that has happened with COVID is the information has really affected people more than the fear of the disease.
Yeah.
Because then you got sectors, you got people who don't believe COVID is real. It's a massive number of people actually that I've seen demonstrations in London. The people don't believe COVID is there. And you giving out this conflicting information, you are giving these people a chance to prove their point.
Right.
That COVID don't exist.
Everyone's lying.
You understand?
They must be lying about everything.
Yeah.
Right.
And it has become a political tool now.
Right.
For the opponents and the leaders. So And you know, when politicians decide to use something, forget it, man. It will never make sense.
The details don't matter.
The details don't matter because
don't matter.
Yeah, the other guy is saying, "Oh, this guy is taking advantage of this," and the other guy is saying, I need to take care of. I'm the leader. I need to take care of the people." Then people are left in the middle to think and to decide who to believe. So I go back to the groups. What I told you when we were starting today's program, that these days people barely use their mind. Because we are in a generation of following, so you accumulate this big group of people following you, and you become more of a prophetic figure. Whatever you say,
that's true.
They believe it.
Yeah.
And I used to write few things on Facebook when I see someone writing something, and I would challenge them, and I realized I was going to get mad, because then it used to somehow I even used to get sensitive over it, because I'm looking at this person, they're writing about something that they actually don't know about, but because they have an emotional connection to this subject, so they are speaking from their own understanding, and that I didn't understand it, because in my position I wanted to more of helping, look, that information is not correct.
Right.
Forgetting that these people, or this generation we're in today, people have made groups of people that really believe in them. That even if these people wake up and say, "Oh, urine heals COVID," people drink it. This is a very dangerous issue, especially on social media. So then I realized, it's pointless if your contribution to a conversation does not make any type of impact. If it's going to turn into some type of a catalyst to mental issues, then it's better to avoid it. That's why you see, people don't really want to talk about sensitive issues on Facebook.
No, it gets explosive, right? They start arguing straight away.
They start arguing, and
conversation.
There's consequences there. For example, if you're a doctor and you happen to be on Facebook and someone says something, with your knowledge background, you're trying to say something, these people will abuse you. And within your code of conduct, you are risking in offending or doing something out of your practice conduct, and you're gonna say something that can affect you in 10 years,
and it can be it can affect you socially.
So this is the problem that is happening, that people don't the governments and leaders, and they don't understand that information is as dangerous as having sex without a condom. I'm telling you, because politics in my country, the way it's played, someone will get a picture, like I say to you, or someone's head is chopped up, and this person will just get, Photoshop and tag it and put a national flag. Then they will lie about it. They don't care, because they have to make a point. That's politics. That's how politics is played today.
And they have a point to make. They're sure that point is right. They just don't have the right picture to make that point, so they use that one.
But what they don't really care about is the person who is consuming this information, because the only genuine person in this scenario is the follower,
right?
Because followers tend to follow their beliefs, because that's the main reason they follow you. They follow you because you represent a percentage of the beliefs, of the things they believe in. You get it? So
and they kind of believe that you somehow present them things.
You present that you're an ambassador of their beliefs. So now, when this person is not really is a wrong person, they tend to use these people. Speaking of Donald Trump and other political leaders, they use these people not because they care about their views, but because these people happen to be advantageous.
Right. And they don't see them as. They don't see them as people, right? They see them as useful numbers, useful...
Exactly.
You know what I mean,
So, speaking of that, what is your whole perception as given that background, COVID?
Well, this is what I was trying to say. I found out, I was told, it wasn't my idea that came up with this, that there is political advantage now
Yeah.
in the government announcing a second lockdown
Okay.
because of the evidence that's come out.
Yeah.
And this is kind of the same thing you're doing. Like, say for example, and I'm not saying that this is true, okay?
Yeah.
Because I'm not a scientist,
Yeah.
so I don't know. Like,
I know you're not.
you know. But say for
You were a
example,
social scientist.
yeah, exactly. It's close, but not quite right. But like, say for example that this disease turns out to really be not a very deadly disease, and not something that is deserving of the reaction it has. Now, I'm not saying that that's the case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just
I know
hypothetically.
hypothetically.
Yeah.
And say that lockdowns are not an effective way of combating the spread of this disease.
Yeah.
Okay, so you have the first lockdown, and the progression of the disease goes like this.
Yeah.
And that's actually the normal progression for diseases.
Yeah,
they go like that. They rise through a population that's not been exposed to them.
Yeah.
And then it levels off because people become immune to it.
According to even environment.
Yeah.
For example, if you got people like this week, you expect a festival to go on, a few festivals.
Exactly. And
so you
people are
expect
gathering, now they're not gathering so much.
Yeah.
And this is all hypothetical, okay? So, but this is what has happened with this disease. It's gone like this. And it was at the top when you do the lockdown, and afterwards it came down. Now, it naturally would have come down anyway.
Yeah.
But you did the lockdown, you damaged the economy, you damaged people's lives, you introduced a lot of mental health problems.
Yeah.
And you say that the reason that it went down is because of that.
Yeah.
Now, we're coming towards cold and flu season in the winter.
Yeah.
So diseases start to go up like that again. Respiratory diseases start to go up again.
Yeah.
And it's likely that it will go up.
Yeah.
And then come down.
And the season we in is when flu and all these cold diseases come up.
If it does that without any lockdown, then all of a sudden you look at the two side by side. This is what happened when it was first introduced. This is what happened when winter was here. It's like these have both just followed normal disease things.
Yeah.
So you've destroyed my life and the economy.
Yeah.
For no real reason.
Yeah.
It would have happened that way anyway.
Yeah.
And it was all through panic and bad decisions.
Yeah.
And you're the person who's supposed to be leading me out of panic and making good decisions.
Yeah.
So now you have to do a lockdown.
Yeah.
Because if that's what's going to happen anyway, you have to say it's because of the lockdown that it didn't go like that.
Yeah.
You just have to say that if it wasn't for the lockdown, it would have gone up here.
Yeah.
And because we did a lockdown, it goes like this.
Yeah.
And so that justifies all of the damage from the first one.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that the second one is going to do the same damage.
Yeah.
It matters that now the two of them side by side justify each other.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's political advantage in that.
Yeah.
Because if you don't do that, and then people point to that.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden
that's
you
because
become the person that
that's
they can point
because governments in Europe, like we said, it depends on the system of governance. That's because here the government cares so much about people's perception of the.
Well, because that's what matters to their power.
Yeah.
We were talking about this last week.
Yeah.
What influences power?
Yeah.
And why? And so what influences power is perception. Public perception.
Yeah.
In terms of a democracy.
Yeah.
In a democracy, public perception.
Yeah, but not
power.
a country like China. So
right.
that's why we have
different things.
James. That's why we have different results in terms of handling this epidemic. When you look at Sweden they didn't have a lockdown. They encouraged the herd immunity, and they have had the lowest number.
Yeah.
Compared to Italy, England, Spain, and all these other countries.
And lowest economic damage.
Yeah, and you don't expect Sweden to be deceptive, about information coming out and stuff, because Europe has the same way of practice, media and stuff.
And
so,
Sweden, in terms of their reputation, has a very good reputation for honesty. Yeah,
for honesty, but also the application of public health I think matters also.
Yeah.
Swedish people and Switzerland and Scandinavian countries, they have a different approach to public health. They do. They do. That's why when we go to those countries, we think, oh my God, they're very clean. This is all public health.
It always made sense to me, like if you live in a place where if you don't prepare,
yeah,
if you don't spend the first half of the year preparing for the second half of the year,
yeah,
like, because in Sweden it becomes minus 10, minus 20. I don't know what
yeah,
temperature
yeah,
becomes,
yeah.
but everywhere freezes and there's snow.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if you don't spend like the summer and spring preparing,
Yeah,
you die when it gets to winter.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so their culture is surrounded about that. So
Yeah.
it's not surprising to me that they are good at preparing and at socially coming together and being socially responsible in terms of health.
In Africa, COVID has given whoever is in leadership there a massive advantage over oppositions.
Yeah.
Because it has really given them the upper hand of controlling the masses. And in my country where I come from, the guy has really enjoyed his ride.
Yeah.
And it has become as more of an economic advantage for him, because the World Health Organization was giving out a lot of money to countries to prepare for the epidemic.
Really? Okay.
So, and the money came in time when there's elections going on. And as you know, African currency is low.
Sure.
So if you have like say $2 billion in a country with a GDP of $600, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And the guy who is in control, he's going to use that money to neutralize his opponents and also buy out votes and stuff. So to some people, COVID has been
massive advantage.
Yeah, massive advantage. So to Europe, I don't know yet. You know,
What do you mean?
to Europe, I don't know
who's had the advantage.
who's had the advantage and who's, because with Donald Trump and his followers, COVID has really given him an upper hand, because he's the only guy who thinks opposite of whatever is going on.
Right. I think it was more that I think it was more that his opponents used it so badly that it gave him an advantage, rather than him using it so well that he got an advantage.
It's the same thing I said here. Conflicting information confirms that the people who don't believe in whatever you're trying to do, that whatever they are saying is true. You know, Jeremy Corbyn's brother and Antifa people and Black Lives Matter, the demonstrations that have been going on.
Sure.
That was a massive number of people in one place. So if the government is saying that is what is
acceptable, like
not acceptable, but the chances of those people dying from COVID are high because they're in a massive number of people in one place. But then these people go out in thousands of them, they're okay. There's no report that 3,000 people who went on demonstration, 30% of those are ill. So it still confirms their case in saying COVID don't exist, or it exists, as you said, but it is not as dangerous as it has been promoted.
Yeah. And suddenly all of your opponents in that situation can say, oh, so you can go and do massive protests in the streets and be fine, and no one's going to stop you.
Yeah.
But I wasn't allowed to be with my mother while she was dying.
While she was dying, so
and then no one can go.
So
to
you
the
see,
funeral,
that is a catalyst to mental health.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, mental health is on the high rise in England.
Oh, it has been already.
You know how I see it, because I like to go on social media. I don't really talk much on social media, but I like to look at what people write. And a lot of people are affected with mental health issues now. So what is your say on COVID and mental health?
I think COVID has been a horrible. I think
your voice is low.
Yeah, I think the response to COVID and how it's been treated, and again how it's been politicized. I sound like I'm saying the same things over and over.
Yeah.
Has created mental health problems where there weren't mental health problems. I think it has hurt people in ways that they were not prepared for, and that they have not been hurt before.
Yeah.
And I think for a lot of people, the responses to it have ruined their lives.
bruv, the way it has really when you look at domestic violence numbers,
right,
up there. When you look
divorce,
at violence, divorce and stuff,
depression, anxiety, up.
It's
suicide, way
you
up.
know,
Suicide is way up. And imagine how bad you have to feel to go from somewhere where you're not suicidal to where you are suicidal. And if you're feeling that way, like say for every one person who's suicidal, there's like 5,000 people who just feel awful, but they are not going to commit suicide. But they feel awful. So bad that another thing could push them to suicide later. And it's horrible to think about. It's tragic to think about.
I was in accident and emergency last week, and I was talking to one of the doctors, and they said that people turn up to A&E with no physical illness, but convinced that they're going to die because they have lost a friend who happened to be very healthy. They went out, maybe they went to a nightclub, they came home, they are okay. They spoke to their friend, he woke up, and the next day they got a call from another friend that so-and-so died in bed. And this actually happened to me, my friend, the one I told you. I spoke to him like 2 weeks ago, and some people went out with him on a Friday. Was it Thursday or Friday night? They went out with him. He was okay. There was no problem. And on a Saturday, he was dead. You know?
How did he die?
That's exactly, I don't know, because in my community, we don't really ask those questions.
Sure. I guess it's not the most important thing, right?
It's very important, especially now that there's similar cases happening in England. Especially in my community, we've had like a big number of people dying in the same circumstances. We should be asking.
Why?
You know, we should be asking what is happening. But the thing is, everyone is minding their business, and everyone is just going back to their own flat or house, and you know. But the thing is, we don't know what's in these people's mind. You know. So when I went to this, when I was at Royal Free, and the doctor said that people turn up with no physical evidence of illness, but they are convinced that they are very ill. They're very hot, they have a very high temperature, and they measure them, they're okay. You know? And I mentioned, I said, you know what, this is a sign of mental health cases going up. You know, and most of these people, they've lost their jobs. This is an introvert type of population. People mind their own business. Speaking of that, I spend 80% of my life, I spend it alone. So the only reason I don't pay attention to that, because I go to work and I keep myself busy. But imagine if I wasn't working. If I'm not working, I'm not studying, I would just watch Netflix, get bored, and then anxiety kicks in and you fight. So if you was in any position of leadership, what would be your approach to these problems?
Mental health problems.
Like the current mental health problem, because it's broad. It's not like one issue. You know, you could say, okay, domestic violence. Then you know what to attack. You know,
right?
But now you have, a significant number of factors contributing to this. Problematic situation. And
so when it comes, oh man, this is a hard one. Because I think the solution, I don't know how you make this happen, but I think the solution is getting people to form communities, right, where they trust each other, where they spend time with each other.
Speak loudly, because this is recording. I want this to stay on my Facebook, because I made a status on my Facebook encouraging people to form. My people, we move in groups. We are very supportive of each other when it comes to community gatherings and stuff. But when I made this status, the response was more like everyone was ready and willing to self-isolate, because they don't believe that what I was suggesting is working. Because if you speak to someone about your problem, they're gonna share it with another person, and then they were like expressing similar concerns, and minority groups in England, they're not really cared about, to be honest with you. And we have an integration problem, that when a person comes to country, because you've been in a foreign country, it's hard to integrate. You know, it can take you years figuring out how you
language barriers,
and
then culture barrier.
Then you have status problems.
Yeah,
it's
hard.
You don't know who to trust and so we do have those problems in my community.
Yeah.
And I come from a community that is very loving and supportive, but also very sensitive people. So
sensitive to what?
Sensitive to social functioning. You know, people are always anxious of what is so and so saying about me.
Right. Okay. So their reputation inside.
Reputation anxiety. Yeah. So people think, oh, someone hates me because they don't argue with you. For example, like I said to you, I used to argue a lot on Facebook. Not really arguing, but challenging people on whatever they have written. I thought it was healthy. And then I realized, no, this is actually making me enemies, you know?
Right, and through not trying to make enemies, through trying to speak to people.
I need to stop this. However much I thought it's healthy that we exchange this type of information and we learn from each other, then I had to realize that you have to understand the people you're talking to. They're very loving people, but they're very sensitive people.
Yeah.
And in terms of following, this is why you see religion in Africa is massive. Because honestly speaking, I find Africans very easy to convince to follow. You know?
Interesting.
Yeah, come on, man. You know I study people.
Yeah.
I find Africans, it's so easy for them to be convinced that this is. That's why you see African leaders, they will come to Europe, they will take a picture with a guy like James and say, don't worry, we got all the support. And Africans will say, yeah. Oh man, you get it. They won't look into your policy suggestions, you know, they want to look into your policies, your ideas. Any ideological movement, I think, is first tested in Africa to see if it will work. You know? Because when you look at the history of Africa, I don't know how you know Africa, but when you look, for example, religion is foreign to Africa. You know?
Right.
There is no, of all the dominant religions in the world, none of them came from Africa.
True.
You understand?
Right. Although, well, true. Although Egyptian,
but it's not a religion.
And then Mesopotamia Islam kind of became Christianity later. Right?
The main religions in Africa is Catholic, Protestant Christianity, and Islam, and Pentecostal, which is overtaking all these three. The American one, the Pentecostal church.
Yeah.
Why am I saying this? That in Africa, it's only a place that you find poor people will build a $1.5 or $2 million church, but they will find it really difficult to fundraise money for a well. It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
In Africa, you find a pastor with 3 private jets, 1 private jet, and $1 million house, but it is mostly the poor people funding that.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm saying to you that it's quite disturbing, because I've spent so much time with Asian community, and they are very humble people, but they're also curious people, very curious people. Africans, they are very, very naive when it comes to stature, you know. Like, this is why I think it's part of a colonial effect. I don't know, but that's exactly the problem we have. The people get sensitive. If they have a leader and you say, I don't think what this person is saying is true, they will attack you. They won't look into where you're coming from, what is your motive, They will attack you. So you see that even in politics in Africa, if you choose that I'm going to support Musa, whatever Musa says is the truth.
You're the new prophet.
Yeah, I'm the new prophet.
Yeah.
So it is very difficult to like penetrate and convince people that this is the way, this is the healthy way of life.
Right.
You know, and but if I bring an expert, you know, from Texas or anywhere, it doesn't matter if he's saying rubbish, but because they don't know this person, they will believe. You understand? I'm not speaking generally for this is my own perception, because I study minds, I study what people say on social media and what really happens in real life, and I've come to a conclusion that especially when you look at education in Africa, the education in Africa is more on who to follow, who to believe in. The education in Europe and Asia, it is what to find out yourself.
I don't know if I agree with that. In England, like, at least the education system is more training you for obedience than curiosity.
Yeah, for obedience, but also it leaves you with a bit of freedom of expression.
Yeah, it does leave you with a lot of freedom.
Freedom of expression.
That is
yeah,
true.
But I studied in Africa. In Africa, you learn about accepting other people's superiority, like I told you the other day.
Yeah.
You saw?
I think the people who most take on the lessons they learn in English education end up being the most obedient, kind of unthinking people that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I think there's something going on in English culture which counteracts that, which means people push against that education. And it's in that pushing against it that you kind of break off into this.
I think the millennial generation of yours is changing that, because it all comes back from being fed up with being fed the same thing on a psychological understanding. You know, even a child, if you keep giving them the same thing, they'll get bored. For example, look at presents. When you buy a present for a child, they're going to be excited, and once they use it a couple of times, they're fed up. That is the generation we have now, and I'm very happy about that, because I'm one of those people who don't believe that education is very important. I'm an adult educator. I went back to education. I know how important it is, but also to help people in terms of the modern world pressures and social pressures, is to let people be in their own independence. And that is not, a capitalist is not going to agree with that, and modern leadership is not to agree with that. But also it affects people. You understand what I'm saying? Going back to COVID, that all the information that we've been given, if you try to put it together, you will go crazy.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
All work together. It doesn't make sense.
You understand. So if a person has been conditioned or indoctrinated to just follow that, whatever the government says is true. Like, you have people on Facebook who really thinks that a news article is actual information. That you should... There's a big number of people there who still believe in news articles. They don't understand that a news article of today is influenced with, you know, financial and economic...
Finance, politics.
Politics,
you know? It's a lot more opinion than it is research.
But how...
In a lot of cases, at least.
But this...
Sorry, 1 second. Just, what time is it?
I don't know. I think we are about to stop, because we have touched... My issue is mainly on mental health. That a number of people, like the number of victims of COVID, the highest number is going to be mental health, not the disease itself.
I agree. And well, mental health and economic damage. Because if you have like,
of course, if you have economic damage, you're going to have mental health issues.
Right? But you know, like people who were not, who were just hanging on. You know, they were not homeless. But they could be. Will become homeless. People whose, you know, marriage was just hanging on, but they weren't going to break up. Break up. You know, people who were not very well employed, unemployed. Like, it's a hard time for a lot of people.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I understand what do you think of, because you asked me a lot about my opinion on
Okay.
but I didn't get to ask you yet.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to finish my point. I think I
Yeah,
said
I was
everything
more
that
of
I
like
had to say,
a moderator.
Yeah, but I gave my opinion.
Yeah.
What do you think about COVID?
COVID itself as a disease, I'm skeptic about it. I don't know if it's an illness that is one of the illnesses that we've had in the past, like a genuine virus. I don't know if it's someone is responsible for that. I think it's unfair.
What do you mean?
Responsible, like if there's a possibility that it came out from a lab, that someone is negligence.
Sure.
You know, and that person should pay for that because this is costing lives. It's costing governments a lot of money. For any country that allowed that to happen,
right,
then that country has to, you know, I don't know. I'm not the one to decide, but you understand my point.
Yeah, I understand your point.
For politicians, I think they have let people down in terms of handling this disease because each side has used COVID for political purposes, but not for the well-being of people. Unless they already know that this is not a dangerous thing, but since it's here, we are going to take advantage of it. Because I know politicians can take advantage of anything. I've seen countries destroyed to the ground just because a politician wants to make a political statement. You know, if you look at Libya today, Syria, and these other countries that are suffering, they are suffering because some politicians have to make a stand and prove their point, regardless of people dying.
Because they don't care about.
Because they don't care.
Those people were against them anyway.
Yeah.
So it's actually better for them.
So that could happen if someone knows, like for example, someone like Boris Johnson or Donald Trump, they have already been told that actually the disease is not that bad, but they see the advantage side of it. It's going to make some big capitalist is going to make them billions, like it has already made them billions, and it's going to favor your political movement.
So Boris Johnson, out of 10, how do you think he's done? You said 3 or 4, right?
I used to like him when he was a mayor, so my opinion will be more of a biased opinion. I would give him 3.
3.
Yeah.
So you said, I thought you were surprised when I said
no,
3.
really.
But you were like, oh, why? And I was like,
no,
he thinks he's done way
also
better.
Labour, especially the new government of Labour, the shadow government, they are rubbish. They're rubbish. I was a big fan of Corbyn.
Oh, really?
Jeremy Corbyn. For one reason,
yeah.
I like a leader who connects with people. For me, that's my main point. For me to be attracted to a politician is if you have the interest of the people. You know, and
I see what you mean.
There is one thing you cannot deny.
People spoke a lot about him. Right?
There is one thing you cannot deny. That guy, he is connected to people, and in the aspect of politics, I think politicians are not meant to work on the emotions and the feelings of people.
I think
because I have
not
seen
a great leader, to be honest. But that's a different topic.
That's a different topic.
Yeah.
But for me, as a person who perceives the world with heart, not just eyes and ears, I like leaders who are connected to people.
Yeah.
Because that means a lot to me. It does not matter if you're politically wrong, but that connection is very important, especially when it comes to decision making.
Right.
You understand?
Yeah.
The only reason why Jeremy Corbyn is not a favorite of most people, especially educated people and people who are in favor of capitalism, is because he does not represent their views. You know, he represents uncommon views.
True.
I
also didn't like his policies.
And politics don't support that.
Yeah.
You know, because let us be honest, James. As much as politicians convince people that they represent them, they don't.
True.
They don't represent a common man's emotions and feelings. If they did that, we would not be having these wars going on. We would not be making nuclear bombs. For what reason?
Right.
Do you understand? Why would you make a nuclear bomb?
Well,
you know,
because if other people have nuclear bombs, you need to have something to say.
Of,
Don't use them.
of course,
us,
everything.
right?
It is. Someone would be stupid to do something without having reasons to justify why they are doing so. I expect that.
But this one's an easy one, right?
Yeah.
If I have a gun, and I go like, Musa, give me your phone, give me your wallet, and you're like, okay, here's my phone, here's my wallet, he has a gun, and then, but now I come to you and I have a gun, I point it at you, I say, Musa, give me your phone, give me your wallet, and you bring out your gun and you point it at me and say, no, I'm not going to do that.
That all makes sense, but you know what really destroys everything that would make sense in that statement? It is when another person tries to make it, and then you come and say, no, you can't make it. Because it's very dangerous for you to have it. You get it? So that it loses sense.
You know, well, I get it. It still makes sense because now I'm like, Musa, don't make any guns. Because I want to control you with my gun.
So, I think today's topic was very interesting.
But what do you think about the lockdown as well? Before we finish, lockdowns.
The lockdown,
both of them,
I think it's a political statement. It is more it is more influenced by politics, as you said. I don't think it's for the common man being, because when you look, people are willing to go to work. And people have already mixed up, and the government is just pretending, but it knows that there's been even more intimate connection than it was before. Because people were so squeezed, so they started having parties in a house. And a party in a house is very intimate, you know? So that alone, if it was to cause more infection, it would by the time we came out of COVID time, there would be more infection. I believe that people have been more socially connected in lockdowns, but not in a healthy way. Don't get me wrong. Because if you have Snapchat and these other social media stuff, people have been going to people's houses and partying till morning, day in, day out. So the government has to prove their point, and let's see how far it goes. You know, because I think COVID, it has become more of a political weapon.
My entire opinion on it is basically there's a risk, you know, in like you're now at risk of getting coronavirus and potentially suffering the consequences. If I know what that risk is, even if I don't know the chances of it, I'm allowed to put my life at risk if I want. It happens to be my life. And the argument goes around that being like, well, you're risking other people's lives because you might be infecting.
Which makes sense.
It makes sense. But at the same time, they should be taking their own precautions.
But if you live with 5 people who don't make a decision for you to go out, it's unfair. Because you make that decision, and that decision you made by yourself is going to affect 5 people.
True.
So I do support that argument.
I see the argument. Because it breaks down when you put it like that.
So
as long as you can discuss it within a living situation.
I also understand why now you have to talk like that. That is all contributed by frustration. When you're frustrated, your brain is trying to find a way out and reason for not being in a position you're being put into. So that's speaking of mental health. This is why I say to you that people are so paranoid that they turn up to accident and emergency because they think they're dying. Someone gets a cold that we usually get, and they'll be running to accident and emergency. And there's conspiracy stories going on, like, if NHS tells you to stay home, please don't stay home. They just want you to die.
So actually, I agree with what you said about, like, because your actions have consequences for other people that you live with. And you know, like, obviously I'd thought about that before, but I kind of dismissed it. I think you're right about that.
It's frustration.
You know? But I think as well, like, one more question, and this is a question for actually next time, because it's too big. But, like, how much of that is the responsibility of the people you live with to deal with, and your responsibility to deal with? And how much of that should be the government decides? Because the government should not actually be involved in every decision of your life.
We will have to look. We will have to look at. I don't know about UK law. I don't know when the government has to enforce or control your movement. I don't know how they get the rights to do that, but I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
Under circumstances.
Under circumstances, well, because that's when they arrest people.
Yeah.
So then, what's and where should the line be, and what is the line? But this is for another time.
This is something I need to do some reading, because I don't want to use my feelings, because I will explode if I'm given a chance. Because I believe that I also believe that I'm responsible for other people, not only for my life. I hate the idea of being only responsible for your own life, because your actions, if they impact the lives of others, then it means you're responsible for other people. This is what I tell my kids.
I agree with that.
That I don't want you to say, oh, I didn't tell him to follow me. This is what I tell my daughter. Because if your actions influence your big brother to do what you're doing, it means you're responsible for him.
Yeah.
It's this, vice versa. So that's what I think, that we are respective citizens, but also we got a mind.
Well, I agree that people should be responsible for their actions and how it affects others.
Yeah.
I don't know how much the government should be made to be more responsible for your actions than you are.
Yeah, because we have given the government that, those powers.
You know what I mean? Like, because like it should be your decision that I'm.
Yeah. You know what really annoys me? Yeah, it is like consumer rights. It's like you don't have rights. Honestly, speaking of that, so I know this is a totally different thing.
Yeah. Again, we have to come back to this.
Yeah, but it goes back to how much you have. How much control do you have about yourself and your rights? Because a guy sells you something, and they will put the most important information. They will enlarge it and make it so difficult to read, make it too small. So, in the end, you have no right.
Right.
You understand? So I think the government uses the same tactics.
I agree.
Yeah.
So hide it among everything else.
Yeah.
Here's 10,000 pages of something.
Yeah.
One page is the important page.
And
find it.
The government always employs the smartest people in the society, and they will train them to be selfish. They will make them to feel like they are part of the government, and whatever they decide it is right. So that's why you see that scientists can come in front of TV and lie to people, because speaking of groups that we were talking about, that people will feel, people will be united with a common understanding of something and become a group. So if those
whether
people...
the understanding is true or not.
Yeah, whether the understanding is true or not. And if those people happen to be more superior, it means they can control you, the mass. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So these are the same tactics the governments use. I see it in Africa, because in Africa it's practiced in broad daylight.
Right, here it's subtle.
Yeah, here it's subtle. You don't see it coming, but it's actually there.
It's actually quite obvious, but, but for some reason hard to point at. Yeah. Because it's done in that kind of way where it's like, oh, you're reading too much into it. It's like, it's obviously there. Yeah. It's just hard for me to say that it's there. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and because everything is labeled in this country, the so-called smart people, they belong to a certain club. Yeah. That if you're not in that club, whatever you're saying is bullshit.
Yeah. It's a class thing. It's a class thing. Kind of, or group thing. Yeah.
Because what really I enjoyed seeing people that I admire. I admire scientists. Besides religion. Because scientists, they are against religion, but...
Let's talk about religion next time.
Yeah, but when you look at science, it's a religion itself.
Yeah, definitely.
It has the same ideology.
Well, yes and no. Yes and no, because, because science, supposedly, properly done science, is something that constantly changes its underlying beliefs based on what it can find and test in the world.
So does religion.
Because it has the fundamentals, right? Yeah. You're not going to find out something tomorrow and say that it turns out that Allah and Muhammad is actually bullshit. But you can find out something tomorrow that turns out that gravity is bullshit if you find enough evidence.
Let me ask you something. Why do you think that most psychologists end up reading religious books?
Oh man, because they are so psychologically rich. Because they're a distillation.
Because there's a connection.
Of pure psychological ideas.
There's a connection to psychological beliefs or psychological discoveries to religion.
Yeah.
Because even
religion is the original. Look, we have religion.
Yeah.
Philosophy next. Yeah. Psychology next.
Yeah.
Like religion is the root.
Yeah.
In many ways.
Yeah.
And before religion, we have groups of people.
Yeah.
So we have individual people, groups of people,
yeah.
religion, philosophy, psychology, and that's the kind of chain of development.
Yeah.
It's no surprise to me that religion turns out to be very, very rich as a form of information and ideas when it comes to psychological concepts.
Exactly.
Because this is ways of explaining the world that you can't put into simple scientific words. You have to do it in a story that means more than the story says.
But the story is not just a story that it can just be built.
No, because it has to be true. Because if it's not true, it doesn't work.
Thank you very much for saying that. It has to be true. You know,
if it's not true, it doesn't work as a story that means something. If it doesn't, otherwise it's propaganda. Or otherwise it's just trying to say something.
When I was introducing our podcast, I said we will be talking about, I don't know if I shared the audio, it's a demo audio I did, that we will be talking about religion. And main reason why I mentioned religion is because amongst the people I live with in community and the people I see on social media, there is a growing number of atheists, you know. And I live along with them. You just confirmed to me the other day that you are an atheist.
I am an atheist.
You are very, you're a good person. You don't mean no harm to me. So I can live a very peaceful life, have a very healthy conversation with you. So my perception about that is changed. You know, I do believe that, okay, there's someone, one of my friends put a status on Facebook saying religion is like shoes. You wear your shoes and don't force me to wear your shoes. And that was really rich to me.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I'm actually living this now. Because in 20 years ago when I was really a teenager, that would be something different. That would mean I have to stop fucking around with you. You are not my friend anymore. Blah, 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 blah. Because the perception of a person who don't believe in God, it means they are bad people, they are criminals, you understand what I'm saying? But now we have reached in a generation where a religious person is more dangerous than a person who don't believe in God. You know?
Do you know, I think
that's
I
quite
know why.
Disturbing, you know? Because religion has been infiltrated by political agendas, you know? That's hence you see things like happening in France, you know, someone like.
Let's save this for another time, man. We can't get into this now. I know where you're going. I know where you're going.
No, I'm not. Okay, we'll start from there, but I want you to think deeply about this, and when we have this conversation next week, we have to talk about it openly without being biased.
Sure.
Because the statements I've just made now, a staunchy Muslim will attack me.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Because like I said to you, I come from a very sensitive background. That when a person belongs to a group, they follow only the beliefs of that group. They don't want to think outside the box. You know, hence our show is called Outside the Box.
Outside the box.
They don't want to think outside the box. They want to, when I was growing up in Uganda, if you found a pig, we used to chase pigs and we wanted to kill them because we are Muslims. Now, I've grown up and I've read a few hadiths in Islam, and actually I'm not allowed to kill a pig.
Oh, really?
Just because I'm not allowed to eat pork does not mean I should disrespect the pig.
Pigs,
you know, but there's people there with this mentality that what you're saying is not right. If a pig comes my way, I'm going to kill it. You know, when we were young, people used to kill dogs. You know, but Alhamdulillah, I've always been a person who thinks before making a move. you know. I remember the times when young ones used to go chase dogs. I'll be like, I don't want to see a dog crying for help.
Yeah.
That's not something I want to see.
Yeah.
You know, I did support the act of chasing it, but I didn't want to be part of I didn't want to be part of harming something, because these dogs, they used to make noise. You know how dogs make noise.
Yeah.
And that really disturbed me. I'm like, I don't want to do that. You know, even cutting chicken.
Yeah.
It's, you know, that's in Africa. That would be coward. If I was given a knife to kill a hen.
Yeah.
If I say no, I can't do that, they'll be laughing. They'll be, oh my God, he can't kill a chicken.
Yeah.
So that is going to be our next topic. And the good thing with live broadcast, it can stay there. They will watch it, and we will get to know if what we're talking about makes sense through the comments. If it's interesting.
Okay.
So, see you next time.
Yeah. See you next time.